A very warm welcome to the Amersham Methodist Circuit YouTube channel and to this episode of Thought for Sunday the 23rd of June 2024. My name is the Reverend Adam Wells and I am the Superintendent Minister of the Amersham Circuit of the Methodist Church. You are most welcome whether you are joining us for the first time or have been with us many times. This week we're dealing with a very famous passage, a passage that has been known to many of us since our days in junior church or Sunday school. But before the passage, the hymn 116, Sing for God's Glory, that colours the dawn of creation.
Sing for God's glory that colours the dawn of creation, racing across the sky, trailing bright clouds of elation. Sun of delight succeeds the velvet of night, warming the earth's exaltation. Sing for God's power that shatters the chains that would bind us, searing the darkness of fear and despair that could blind us, touching our shame with love that will not lay blame, reaching out gently to find us. Sing for God's justice, disturbing each easy illusion, tearing down tyrants and putting our pride to confusion. Lifeblood of right, resisting evil and slight, offering freedom's transfusion. Sing for God's saints who have travelled faith's journey before us, who in our weariness give us their hope to restore us. In them we see the new creation to be, Spirit of love made flesh for us.
The first book of Samuel, chapter 17, selected verses. Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle. They were gathered at Soko, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Soko and Azekah, in Ephes Dammim. And there came out from the camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he was armoured with a coat of mail. The weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. He had greaves of bronze on his legs, and a javelin of bronze slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and his shield-bearer went before him. He stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not servants of Saul?" choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us." And the Philistine said, "Today I defy the ranks of Israel. Give me a man, that we may fight together." When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now Saul and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. David rose early in the morning, left someone in charge of the sheep, took the provisions his father had given him, and went as Jesse had commanded him. He came to the encampment of the army as it was going forth to the battle line, shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army. David left the things in charge of the keeper of the baggage, ran to the ranks and went and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came up out of the ranks of the Philistines and spoke the same words as before, and David heard him. David said to Saul, "Let no one's heart fail because of Goliath. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are just a boy, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and whenever a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it and struck it down, rescuing the lamb from its mouth, and if it turned against me, I would catch it by the jaw, strike it down, and kill it. Your servant has killed both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, since he has defied the armies of the living God." David said, "The Lord, who saved me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, will save me from the hand of this Philistine." So Saul said to David, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." Saul clothed David with his armour. He put a bronze helmet on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. David strapped Saul's sword over the armour, and he tried in vain to walk, for he was not used to them. Then David said to Saul, "I cannot walk with these, for I am not used to them." So David removed them. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the wadi and put them in his shepherd's bag, in the pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. The Philistine came on and drew near to David with his shield-bearer in front of him. When the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was only a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. The Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and to the wild animals of the field." But David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This very day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head, and I will give the dead bodies of the Philistine army this very day to the birds of the air and to the wild animals of the earth, so that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord does not save by sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand." When the Philistine drew nearer to meet David, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet the Philistine. David put his hand in his bag, took out a stone, slung it, and struck the Philistine on his forehead, the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
I think that will be the longest reading we have had on Thought for Sunday since we changed the format and decided to rebrand our Sunday offering as Thought for Sunday. The story of David and Goliath, probably one of the most famous stories in the Bible. I don't know about you, but the first thing I think about is about the underdog overcoming the expected winner. And we all love it when the underdog triumphs. David, the smallish boy who can't even get into Saul's armour, defeats Goliath, the mighty champion of the Philistines. And then next, I think about the use of gifts and talents. David the shepherd goes and collects the stones from the brook, and by use of his sling and appropriate sized stones, he is able to slay the giant. Those are both very good points, but I wonder if there's something that I haven't thought of before. You see, we don't get to the actual fight with Goliath until quite a long way into the chapter. There is an awful lot about David coming to see his brothers, bringing them food, about David being prepared to serve Saul, who of course he is due to succeed as king. And that set me to thinking, is there something in this reading about succession? Those who have gone before us and those who will come after us, particularly in the case of Saul and David, David coming after Saul. David shows respect. David is willing to serve Saul. Now, I know this isn't reflected in other parts of the first book of Samuel that come from different sources. But here we find David subservient until the time is right. And maybe that teaches us something about how one person should succeed another. With due respect, maybe even with adoration and admiration for what's gone before. Perhaps adoration is too much. But certainly we should be more respectful and more conscious that we follow somebody in a particular job. Maybe that might change the way we behave. Maybe that might change the way our politicians are currently behaving. Now that is a thought for Sunday.